Oh boy, did I want to unleash my James sermon on you this morning. If we were Baptists, I'd give it to you both barrels. Right? Can't bless and curse with the same mouth. Where do you lose it as a Christian, and on and on? You can see me privately for that sermon. Or come with me as I watch Florida State football, and I can live that sermon. But you don't need a preacher for that. James preaches very well just on his own, and I commend it to you. I'd like to take you to the gospel today. Or Jesus is taking all of us closer to God's heart, as Jim prayed about. Jesus said to his followers, now test me out on this. If you want to follow me, actualize yourself to your greatest human potential. Open your mind to the wisdom of the heavens, and then you can follow me. Right?
Wrong.
Anybody other than our youth pastor, right? Is that what Jesus said? I'm sorry, that's Deepak Chopra. Let's try again. Jesus said something that shocked all of his followers. If you want to follow me, deny yourself. Take up your cross. If you want to save your life, you have to lose it. You have to surrender it. You have to lay it down. When you lose your life, then God can save it and give you a different life, a better life than anything that was in your plan. Everybody with me on that? You're not going to find that in a bookstore on an internet teaching series. You're going to find that in the wisdom of something that Jesus said 2,000 years ago that's as challenging for us today as it was to the people that were listening to him. That one doesn't sell very often, but boy, is it true. I've listened to those words my whole adult life, and I have one question. Has anybody listened to that statement and you go, where? Where? Where are you supposed to go? Take up a cross and go where? How does that work? How do you do that? Lay down my life? What does that look like? Where to go? What to do? This past week, I had a shocking moment that answers that question, at least for me. You missed if you weren't there. We had a hand celebration last Thursday afternoon right up in the upper room. It was a wonderful celebration of all the mission and outreach ministries. That means in church code language, when we get off our butts out of the chairs, we leave comfortable homes, and we put ourselves at somebody else's service, not through the Rotary Club, which is awesome, but in the ministry of Christ. The word ministry means serving in the name of God. So our mission and outreach is to get up and get out and to show people what Jesus' love looks and feels and sounds like in situations of real challenge. So we have a mission and outreach ministry. Does anybody know this? And so we had a small but mighty group. I learned something on Thursday. I learned that if I want large groups of you to come, we're going to ask you for money, and we're going to auction off trips, golf, and whiskey. We never had larger groups, and when we do a fundraiser for this, we had a smaller group, and we didn't ask you for anything. So we'll change that next year. We'll go back, don't worry. Put it on for next year. We had a wonderful group. We had a Skype phone call with our mission partner, one of our partners in Honduras, in La Ceiba, on the coast. She's the principal of an Episcopal school connected to Holy Trinity Episcopal Church in La Ceiba. Her name is Veronica. We call her Vera. Vera was telling us about their plans in the coming year. They're opening a new part of the school. They have up to 60 students with very little places to put them. Can we help come tutor these students? And I said, if it's not math, I'm happy to tutor. We have mathematicians, we can bring them along, but not me. Then she started talking about the ministry of Holy Trinity Church. They've gone out to a new area outside of La Ceiba. And it's where the railroad freight trains come in to take the fruit and the agriculture in and out of La Ceiba to be processed. It's called, this is really tricky Spanish, stay with me, La Leña, which means in English, the line. That's as far as my Spanish goes. La Leña, the line. And the freight railroad ceded, they gave up that line coming into La Ceiba. They don't need it anymore. Do you know what happened 10 minutes after that news was announced in La Ceiba? Can anybody guess what happened to the line? Oh no, it's not torn up. They can't tear it up now. The poorest people in and around La Ceiba, Honduras, moved their families to live on the railroad line. It's land that's not been claimed. And so you have families living in some of the most humble and challenging circumstances that can't make it in La Ceiba. And they're out squatting on the train line. They've built something that they would call a home. We would call it a hut or a hovel. No sanitation, no running water that's clean, no electricity, no nothing. And these families are trying to raise their children literally on the tracks. You imagine doing that, parents, for a couple of nights with your infant children? Holy Trinity Episcopal Church, Veronica told us, has a ministry going out to La Leña, and they've had it for a couple of years, and I knew that. What I didn't know is that she told us during that Skype phone call, they've named the little chapel, the little hovel that they have built in the middle of the train line, they've given it a name. They named it Transfiguration. Because, she said, they were so touched from people from a church called Transfiguration in America who left their comfortable homes and traveled to another country to show up, not to send money, to send themselves to do ministry to the people of La Ceiba, that they wanted to go out and find the least, the lost, the left out, and they wanted to do what we showed them how to do. I was completely undone. It's one of the biggest honors of my life as a priest, and I hope you feel honored also. That our ministry as a congregation has actually impacted the life of a church in another country with profoundly challenging circumstances. And they are crediting the ministry of wonderful people from our church, some of whom are here this morning, that showed them how to do it. Take up your cross and follow me. I want to issue you a challenge. I was so touched by this call. I've been thinking about it all week. Do you know that we have a mission partner in Tanzania in the Anglican Church, and no one, including me, from our church, has ever gone to Africa to represent our church and to see what they are doing in some of the most challenged areas of the continent of Africa. Our mission partner goes up against radical Islamists every week to the threat of their clergy and their congregations, and that church is exploding by the hundreds and thousands every month. I want to issue a challenge to someone that there is a line. La Leña is not just in Honduras. There is a line where Christ is in Africa. And I prayed about this. There is someone from our church that's supposed to go to Africa and see what's happening. I know there's one person here who's never been on a mission experience before from a church. I'm speaking to you. There's a line out there. We've supported it financially, but we've never gone ourselves. Who would feel called today to leave a comfortable chair, maybe not so comfortable chair, comfortable home, and travel to Africa to see and do ministry? There's a line out there, just like Lalania. We're mission partners with the Diocese of Jerusalem in the Middle East. Do you know that they have schools, hospitals, and orphanages that operate with, as a whole diocese, with less financial resources than we have as a congregation? I preach this, and as you can imagine, Mark had a plan by the time we got from Vale to Edwards. Is there anybody here who would go to the Holy Land, not to take a pilgrimage, but to go stand with Anglicans in the Middle East? Christians who are teaching in orphanages and schools and working in hospitals. You know what I found out about clergy in Arabic? They sound just as overinflated as clergy do speaking English. The Lord's Prayer in Arabic is the same rhythm as it is in English. You could go and not know anything, but if you know our service, you just say it in English, you end up at the same time at the Nicene Creed. It's the same thing. There's a line in Jerusalem. And I'm challenging someone that's never been on a mission experience to consider going. From our church. Lalania isn't just out there in the world, is it? Where's another Lalania? Is there Lalania locally here? Has anybody ever been within 400 yards of this chapel after 10 o'clock at night? It's a different valley then. I've done that recently. It's a whole different world, round about 10. Not this way, this way. Where is Lalania in the valley today? Our church has done unbelievable things at the Vale Valley Medical Center for chaplaincies. We fed people and we continue to feed people and lead that feeding every week. Has anybody ever been to jail here? This is not one of those raise your hand questions. I don't believe there is a standing Protestant ministry to our prison. I've been in that prison at night on short notice. It's terrifying. I wonder if there's a line there where Christ's love could be shared. Does anybody know that there is a safe house for women in Eagle County? I've never been, and I don't need to know where it is. That's the point. I, 3 times in my ministry, on short notice, have made appointments and taken people to that house. There is a huge line there. We have Meredith Van Ness with us this morning, and we're starting National Suicide Prevention Week. One of my heroes in the valley is the woman on the back row who leads a coalition committed to stopping suicide, which is a dramatically rising element and shocking experience in Eagle County. Is it 25 through 54-year-old men? Is that it, Meredith? Meredith tells me what she's most concerned about across the country is the rise in suicide of men, professional men, ages 25 through 54. How many of us would that include today? Right here in Eagle County. There is a line out there of people that are living beautifully, but they are desperate internally. Lalania is all around us. We don't have to go very far. Let me ask you one more question. Perhaps Lelania isn't around the world. Perhaps it isn't even across the valley. What if Jesus is calling me this morning to pick up my cross and follow him and lay down the life I thought I had in my family? That somehow Lelania might be in my marriage. That God's calling me to lay down my plans and my thoughts so that something better and more beautiful could emerge. What if there's a relationship in my life that is so tortured and so contrarian and so painful that that's where my line is right now in my life? What if someone's squatting in my soul? I don't want to look there, but boy, are those voices screaming inside of me. There are a lot of places where that line can be that aren't outside us at all. Could Jesus be telling us that he has better plans for our lives and our families and our marriages and our kids and our relationships and our co-workers than we have for ourselves? Absolutely he is. Friends, would you celebrate with me the birth of the newest congregation in the Diocese of Honduras? It's called Transfiguration Lelania. And I made a commitment to go and worship there in the next year myself. Where is God calling you to follow him, pick up the cross, and lay down our lives for something far better? Wherever your line is, Jesus is waiting for you there. In the name of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.